Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to this webinar on modern airline retailing and value creation. My name is Yanik Hoyles. I'm the Director of Distribution IATA, and I'll be hosting this session. And this is just the first of a series of webinars we're going to do on the modern airline retailing program. So watch this space. At the end, we'll also be asking you for some feedback. And in that, we'll be asking for some suggestions of any specific topics in the context of retailing that you'd like us to consider for future webinars. So a little bit of background as we start. First of all, I think it's just important to note that in the last few years, customer expectations have changed quite dramatically. You've all noticed that during COVID, a lot of things changed. We learned to work a lot more online, and the adoption of technology and digitization in particular have massively accelerated, and that's continued ever since. Now, one of the challenges that our industry faces today is that it's not customer-centric. And the reason is that customer centricity has been constrained. And it's been constrained by these decades-old standards, processes, and technologies that we have in place that are just hindering any real evolution towards becoming a true retailer for our airlines members. Now, what we've realized and where we are today is that the industry, this is not just the airlines, but it's the whole industry of all the players across the ecosystem. Everyone acknowledges that we need to review and modernize our standards, our processes, and our technology. And this is what this modern airline retailing program is about. This is what all this journey, this transformation journey is about, and we're going to talk about it today. And I'm going to have several guests today. You can see them here, and hopefully in a few seconds you'll see them all live on screen as well. So you can see it's quite a good mix of different airlines and individuals who are going to share their adventure to airline retailing. Now, before we jump into a panel discussion that we're going to be having with Tamur Goudarzi from Swiss, Amit Khandelwal from Emirates, and Bryan from Singapore Airlines, we're going to talk about the modern airline retailing program just for a few minutes. And for that, I have with me our host, Keith Wallis from Air Canada. And Keith actually has a dual role here. He's got the role of not only his current job in Air Canada, which he'll tell us about in a couple of seconds, but he's also the chair of the Airline Distribution Advisory Council. I'm going to ask Keith couple of actually three questions. First, I'm going to ask him two questions from an industry perspective. So Keith, if you put on your industry hat, you obviously don't have a hat, but that could be something in the future, just tell us what is this Distribution Advisory Council and what do you see its role in the industry?
Sure, thanks, Yanik, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. The Distribution Advisory Council is a group of like-minded airline industry executives who play something of an advisory role for IATA. So unlike the boards that we have in place and the working groups that work underneath those boards, where we're really developing and affecting change in the industry, the numerous advisory councils actually sit underneath and report to the Board of Governors. And our role is much more advisory. We're a group of a dozen or so airlines, relatively senior people, and our goal is to provide insights, advice, outlook on where we think the industry is heading and what are the future challenges that we think as an industry we're going to be facing and the opportunities that we need to take advantage of. And we're reporting directly into the Director General and the Board of Governors, and our job is to help IATA make decisions on how to allocate resources, how to allocate funds, where to focus efforts, so that we're positioning our industry at a very high level for success in the future.
Okay, so Keith, what I'm going to ask you to do now, because as chair of this advisory council, it gives me the opportunity to actually have you present some of the things we would, giving it really an airline view. So I'm just going to zoom back onto one of my slides here and I would like you to just talk to us. Forgive me, I'm just flipping around a little bit. I'd like you to talk to us about this. This is the Modern Airline Retailing Program that IATA announced in December, so just 4.5 months ago. Keith, would you mind just sharing with our audience what this program entails? Just, don't go through all the details, just high level, so that they kind of understand what this means from an industry approach in this journey to retailing. Keith.
Sure. Thanks, Yanik. So I think, Yanik, as you led off, you gave a really good synopsis of the case change here about why we're doing this, how the customer experience is really quite old and stale and needs to be updated with modern retailing principles. So the modern airline retailing program, I guess I would say the TAC, the DTAC, the IFAC, a number of these advisory councils, communicated to and got support from the Board of Governors that we really needed to restructure some of the work, some of the good work that was already being done in IATA into one cohesive program that brings together all of the efforts that IATA is making in different areas to try and modernize airline retailing. And the modern airline retailing program was born. So everything has been organized under 3 main pillars, which you can see here. And some of this was work that was already happening at IATA in the various boards and working groups, and some of it is a net new focus, which is really important. And we're trying to address kind of the entire customer life cycle, so that we're not just focused on how we sell our product or how the customer experiences at the airport, but really from the first minute that customer touches our industry to the last minute when they get to where they're going, that we're modernizing and upgrading everything along the way. So we start with customer identification, which may seem trivial, but it's something that our industry has not historically done well with a lot of focus and needs a lot of work. So this is really about developing standards that will enable airlines to better identify their customers in a retailing context when we're selling and shopping and selling to them, but also in a service delivery context when we are understanding who they are to deliver those proper services during the travel journey. But it's also it's not just about identifying the customer well, it's also about a whole set of standards that will enable airlines and all of our partners in the value chain that form a part of that customer experience to better process the digital identity of the customer and of each other, so that everyone knows who's in this value chain and who is involved in supporting this customer in the journey. Then, once we have the customer and everyone who's involved in helping that customer well identified, we can move into a world where we are retailing to that customer with true value-added offers. So in this middle pillar, we're looking at standards that will enable airlines to create their existing products with a more retailing spin on them, to create net new products, but also even to build new partnerships with new kind of product partners and suppliers that allow us to create, to expand and even create greater value in terms of the product catalog for the customers. It allows us, these standards will enable us to finally, after speaking about it for so long, distribute dynamically priced or continuously priced offers, personalized offers, because we've identified the customer well. And it even helps us, and this is where for the first time, we will be bringing in concepts around payment together with distribution. In retailing with offers, there will be an opportunity to create even more value for the customer through very cost-effective, digital, simple payment options that take the friction of payment out of the journey. And then last, but certainly not least, incredibly important, once we've sold to the customer an offer that really matches what their desired or intended travel experience is going to be, we start focusing on delivering that experience with orders. So in this pillar, Standards will be developed that will enable customers to access their order in one single record, right? So we're getting away from this area where customers need to keep track of a PNR locator, where their where their reservation and their seat itinerary is, the e-ticket where their right to fly is, and an EMD where all of the other ancillary options that they purchased are housed. So really moving into a very modern environment, well, a more current environment, where the customer has a single record for their journey and everything they purchased. It's the sole reference for all of their services. And this is where we actually start to work on enabling much more simplified financial processes inside the airline, between airlines, and between airlines and partners. So I hope that worked well, Yanik.
Well, we'll see that on the feedback, Keith. But I'm sure I certainly got the gist of it.
Back
so
to
thank
you,
you
Yanik.
very much for that.
Can you hear me?
Before I come back to you, Keith, particularly on Air Canada, just a couple of points I want to add to this for the audience, because we know there are lots of airlines on the call. First of all, is that ultimately the ambition here is for the airlines to take control of their product, their money, and their data, because that, coupled with standards and new technology, is the only way to get anywhere close to retailing, which is true customer centricity. And one thing you'll have noticed that Keith mentioned, everybody, is that payment and distribution are becoming more and more integrated here, not to mention the impact on financial processes. So Keith, thank you very, very much for this quick overview. Now I want to zoom into you, Canada, Keith. And what I'd like you to share with us is how far are you in this journey? Because it's fun to talk about it, but what exactly is happening? And actually, you even surprised us, Keith, in the announcement you made only just a few days ago of a kind of an acceleration. So could you please just give a 5-minute overview of where you are in your journey, what this means, where you are, what this is going to mean for your customers, and some of the challenges that you see? And what I was thinking, Keith, are you doing the same thing as American Airlines?
We are, I would say that, so we are taking that next big step in our transformation of our digital distribution ecosystem. We are not doing the same thing as American Airlines, but we certainly have, I would say, probably the same goals, same objectives, same strategic endpoint. Every airline is choosing their own path that is right for them. And I would say that what we announced last week is our effort to work in a very kind of partnership-like way with the travel agency community to help modernize and transform distribution. Yeah. I can give you an update on what we announced, if that would be, if you give me a soapbox for 30 seconds.
Go ahead. I mean, do the 30-second version.
I would say
that.
I'd like
to know what it means for your customers afterwards. But just give us the 30-second version of what was announced, because it's brand new. And of course, stick to anything that's public domain.
All public. So we did announce the brand new NDC channel, where we've spent the last 12 months heavily investing in technology to get our NDC program and capabilities to a point where they can fully support everything a travel agency needs to do in terms of shopping, selling, with merchandise, retailing capabilities, and then full servicing, retrieve, change, cancel, and modify. I would say that together with that, we have in addition to a technology focus, a content focus. So we are very much looking to create extra value for travel agencies. So our new lowest fighting fare, basic fare in North America, which was only available on our website, is now available in the NDC channel. We're going to be providing even better inventory and access to lower booking classes to help create value and generate better prices. And we are focused on ancillaries. So we're going to be selling preferred seat ancillaries at a lower rate on NDC. And then I would say, together with content and technology processes, so we announced how we're hiring people inside distribution, inside sales, inside IT, so that we are really making sure that we're delivering, we're asking travel agencies to make a leap of faith here and leave a technology that they've relied on that's been efficient for them for decades and come to something that we are going to be providing to them So we have a very robust team in place to help support them as they make that transition.
Keith, what's this going to mean for the customers? Again, a 2-minute version of what are your customers going to see that's going to be different? Is it going to be the same content just for new pipes, or are they going to get better value?
They're absolutely 100% going to get better value. If we've done this right, customers will see more choices from us, all of our products together on the same screen, lower prices, more ancillaries, and then you'll see from us as we go forward into the rest of this year, a move into continuous pricing, which is going to give them even more choice and more value, and a move into bundles to try and get to a point where customers can really get kind of an elevated and customized experience from Air Canada.
Great, Keith. So my last question is, so does this journey end there for you, or what is on Air Canada's radar when it comes to this end vision 100% that I was talking about and you talked about in the program? Where do you stand on this?
So there was a lot of work that went into getting us to the point where we could make the announcement we did last week. But what I've been telling everyone inside the company who will listen to me, this is actually the first day of the rest of our journey. There is so much work left to do. There is a whole roadmap of product value creation that we want to do that's enabled by NDC. But we have now stood up a program team inside Air Canada that is focused on exactly what we're talking about in our program, offers and orders. And this is not for the faint of heart. So we have brought together a team that has distribution, revenue management, the digital team, IT, revenue accounting, finance, and sales. And the goal here is to stand up a very modern offer program, leveraging heavily on what we've been already doing in AI and machine learning to create even more tailored offers for the customer. And then a whole other stream inside our program around transitioning our company to orders. And this is going to be a multi-year program, and we do not have an end date for this journey. But the goal is that customers, when they buy from Air Canada, will have this kind of very tailored offer experience. And then when they settle with us, it'll be completely settled with orders so that they have a very simple kind of travel, service, pay experience. We're just at the beginning. We're learning. We're asking questions of other airlines, partners, vendors. There's a lot to learn here. And I guess if I could give out maybe one piece of advice to any airline who's listening, afford yourself the time as an airline to, at the beginning of this process, to get as educated as you can and to make sure you've got broad set of stakeholders across your company engaged, because the decisions that we as airlines are making now about offers and orders are going to be decisions that we're going to be living with and leveraging for a decade and more to come. It's incredibly important that we devote the time we need to get this done properly and set the right framework and groundwork now.
Keith, thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for taking the time to give this industry introduction and to talk a bit about your airline. We're now going to move into the panel itself. So Keith, have a great rest of start of day, because you're in North America somewhere, unless you're in Europe. But anyway, have a great day, and thank you.
Never know. Thanks, Yanik. My pleasure. Have a good day, everybody.
And I'd like Tamur, Goudarzi, Amit, Khandelwal, and Bryan, if you could just join me on the screen, that'd be fantastic. Hey, Tamur, very nice to see you. Do we have Bryan and Amit on the screen as well? Amit, nice to see you.
Good afternoon, good morning.
And Bryan, did you manage to connect, or are we just going to stay audio? Sounds like he didn't manage to connect at all. He was having some problems earlier. So if Bryan is able to join us, then he will just pop up on the screen, or you'll hear his voice. But in the meantime, let's just start. So I like to ask, let me just start with Tamur, because we started in with a North American airline. Let's move to a European airline. Can you just, please, just to set the scene, what is your retail strategy, Tamur, from a Lufthansa Group perspective? What is it in terms of content differentiation, surcharge, continuous pricing? And then I'll come on to customer benefits. But just to understand that scene first, and then I'll ask Amit. Oh, you're muted, Tamur. Oh, I certainly can't hear you.
So, thanks a lot, Yanik. And yeah, I think Keith already mentioned quite a number of topics. And of course, we should always start when we look at these things from the customer perspective. This is one side of the story, what is actually in for the customer in the end, but also it's the question of ownership for the airlines in terms of the value chain. And when we talk about the value chain, it's of course more than just the distribution part. It's everything that starts from inspiration, over search, over booking, over placement, distribution, about payment, about servicing, fulfillment, post-flight engagement, and loyalty. I think that is a modern airline retailing in its whole. And I think we have now picked some of the key topics together as an industry from this. And we started together the journey with NDC, but we have enlarged it now with the program, with the modern airline retailing program. And that fits perfectly with what Lufthansa also focuses, the Lufthansa group focuses on. So these are the key value blocks that we need to manage from a customer journey perspective, but also from a production logic. It's always bringing both elements together. It's neither only one side. And I think bringing here customer value, additional revenues for us, of course, but also cost control and cost management. I think that in the end is coming all together in this program. That's why I'm so happy that we have really joined forces here now. And I think we will discuss more about our joint endeavors, because this we can only do as an industry together.
So moving to you, Amit, I think when we spoke a while ago, your approach is slightly different. I think there's the whole Tamur talked about cost, revenue, customer centricity, and I believe for you that the customer component is even more greater, so than the actual cost part. Could you just share on that, please?
Yes, hello. I think we sell our product in 120 different countries. We sell it to very different segments of the population. Our products are very heavily invested in, and we aspire to be a luxury travel brand. And so it is, I think, if I may use a quote from the richest man in the world, Bernard Arnault, the saying goes, if you control your distribution, you control your image. So we want to make sure that our product is represented with all its rich attributes. It's presented in a frictionless manner to the customer, and we're able to personalize the offer we make to customers based on the context. Our aim is to get away from showing 16 RBDs on a green screen or 5 fare brands, sort of oblivious of what the context of the person's journey is, and make it far more seamless and transparent experience for our customers, no matter what part of the world they travel from or what purpose they travel for.
So, Amit, does this mean that is it essentially focused on rich content because you're a full-service, all-inclusive carrier? But you also talked about personalization. So, does this mean that even at the Emirates level, there'll be some extras or ancillaries coming into the pipeline?
Yes, so as it is, our physical product has a number of different dimensions, right? We now are aspiring to have a 4-cabin service offering across all our routes, with the premium economy having been introduced last year. And therefore, personalization is critical for us, right? We don't want to overwhelm every customer with looking at 10 different fare brands across 4 cabins. It is also to make sure the rich content, they can see the value, and we're not at the mercy of low fare finders in the GDS to sell our product. And as Tamur said, it's not just to be able to sell our own product that way. We want to make sure the industry is moving in that direction. But one of our overriding goals has all along been to be also able to control our distribution and control our costs.
Yep, I like those wise words. I'll come back in a while to ask you where you are on cost savings or revenue increase, as much as you can share. But before that, I believe that Bryan Coe from Singapore Airlines is not available on video, but he can hear us and he can speak. Bryan, if you are able to share, could you just give your pitch, please, on Singapore Airlines, where you stand in this context of this journey to retailing? What are the areas of focus for you?
I think the previous speakers have spoken a lot. I would say all of the above. At the end of the day, we talked about customer centricity, we talk about personalization. Today, we do wonderful things on our airline.com website, and a lot of these capabilities are not extended to what we call offline channels. NDC has given us this opportunity to start this retailing journey to enable all of that and to increase the economic pie. So in that process, of course, we'll get that control of distribution and that control of cost. But more importantly, we have the customer at the center of these, what we are trying to do as an airline industry. Yeah. So which is important. You want to be able to personalize that. You want to know who is shopping. And because airlines control the offer, we can read the most valid, most valuable offer to the customer based on the data that we are getting from the shopping request. Yeah. And of course, NDC will give to many airlines in the room that all I want to say is it will eventually give you some control of the distribution model, become a lot more efficient in the process.
Bryan,
Thanks.
the line's not perfect, but it's okay. But can you just share a couple of concrete examples of what you say you could do on your website that you could not do through the indirect channel and that you can now do thanks to what you've done?
Okay, so we sell a lot of ancillaries on our website, for example, and we will not sell paid ancillaries in the agency through the GDS. So today, one example of personalization I can give you is, for example, if you return us a loyalty number, a frequent flyer number, we can unlock 8 seats for free, or we can give you a discount because we know who is shopping. Is it a gold member? Is this a silver member, or is this just a normal basic member? And we return different levels of discount. We can already dynamically adjust kind of pricing discount levels as well. And just to share also, we were launching dynamic pricing. We have already launched dynamic pricing on our website, but we have not been able to do it on NDC. And I'm very glad to share that that's coming in on NDC channel as well. So these are some of the kind of changes that will come on the NDC pipe once we finish our testing.
Right. Thank you, Bryan. Tamur, could you give us some examples in a similar line of what Lufthansa has been able to do differently thanks to these new capabilities today, and what's that meant for the travel agent, for the end customer?
Yeah, first of all, I think we have come a long way. And as you know, we have started the journey in 2015 with our explicit program and distribution. And now we can say we have 3 out of 4 coupons now in the new world. That means either on our own channels or on NDC-able channels. This is a great step forward already. And for us, the important part is now to tackle also the 25% we have not achieved yet. And there's a lot with corporate business related to this. And yes, we need to differentiate, of course, content. We have, of course, differentiated content by the channels. So we have some channels where we have less content. It is the EDIFACT channel, but we also have added new value. And I think that's very important that we, as an industry, prove we bring real added new value to the customer. So we have continuous pricing on both own channels and NDC channels. We have just launched a green fare. You might have seen it, which is available in NDC and own channels only, which includes all the compensation elements. We have other offers which we have specifically for corporates or for end customer, be it lounges, be it Wi-Fi, etc., that we have added there, and there's much more to come. So it's really about beefing up also the pipes and bringing the content to the customer. So there's a explicit wish actually to get these products in those distribution channels, and I think that makes it only even more attractive.
Thanks, Tamur. So you're saying what you call 75% of your distribution now is kind of digital channels, so airline.com plus NDC, direct connect or via aggregator. So where you've got control, you can personalize, etc. I'll come back to you in a second on the corporate channel a little bit more. But before that, I just want to ask Amit as well. Is there any concrete examples that you can share of benefits your client base has seen? Because I believe your client base is slightly different, Amit, as well, given your network.
Yeah, I think I have a couple of concrete examples which fall along the lines of what both Tamur and Bryan shared. So our single biggest selling ancillary today are paid upgrades, right? So when you have 4 cabins and you have a reasonable size first and business class cabin, right? Or A380s have 14 seats in first class, 76 in business. and now we have premium economy as well. So a lot of customers clearly on our long haul journeys desire to travel in sort of our premium cabins. And it's a very aspirational thing for a lot of travelers, whether frequent flyers or one-time flyers. And something like an upgrade product, this cannot be done via the indirect channel. So it's one of our most popular product when unable to sell via the indirect channel. That's one. Another one is cash plus miles. Again, cash plus miles, where the frequent flyers cannot get a free redemption seat, which is always, difficult in a high seat factor environment and complaints. They can use their miles towards purchasing of any seat, any fare across all cabins, and that's available through direct channels. So the intent is to bring these ancillaries, popular products, to customers coming with the indirect channels as well, not just the direct.
Thanks, Amit, for that. I also want to go back, as I said, to Tamur, and you keep on telling us that the biggest challenge now is the corporate channel. Why is this corporate travel channel so difficult, and how important is it to crack?
Yeah, I think the most difficult part is the path for offers and orders 100% towards 2030. I think that is the biggest elephant in the room. But on the way in distribution, definitely corporate penetration on NDC is a complex endeavor because we have more stakeholders here being involved, be it the TMCs, be it the tech providers, the GDSs, being the OBEs, let's forget the OBEs, being of course, the customer and us. So we have to work on those more intricate value chain and aligning all the players towards the new pipes. That means some technical changes, needs commercial changes. It needs the heavy interaction between these players, and we have to bring the ducks in a row, so to say. And that's not as easy as has been so far on the leisure side. But now with new contracts, for example, on our side, we have concluded now with all the big GDSs, also new modern NDC contracts, plus, of course, the alignment with the OBEs. This is something where we have to work very closely together. I think we need to have blueprints that we apply for corporates, because we cannot do for each and every corporate just one solution. So we need to be customizing, tailor-making it, but we also need blueprints that gives us a way to structure it. So a couple of tools and things we need to do, and I think we are progressing, but still some way to go. And it needs definitely the willingness of all parties here to collaborate. Otherwise, it won't happen. And that's why I'm always mentioning it's an industry approach. It's nothing we can do alone as an airline.
Thanks, Tamur. Bryan, sailing for you at Singapore Airlines, what is your situation on the corporate travel market? Is this something that you've already got some inroads, some progress, or is it kind of very challenging still?
It is something that we are definitely actively working on. We do believe that we have a mature NDC product, and it can solve many of the corporate use cases already. What we are working on are example things like waiting, which some corporate customers, they want to hold a booking, waitlist on an alternate booking because they've changed. But those are the more advanced, I would say, use cases. But for the kind of rudimentary, being able to shop and book and pay and go and open ticket, we actually have all of those things sorted out already. So I like to think that we have a mature enough product that is usable. Yeah, and we are really encouraging our corporate travelers to kind of work with their TMs to use NDC, because there are many benefits, including pricing differential that we have put to the NDC pipe to encourage take.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Bryan. So what I'm hearing from you, I'm just kind of noting some of the points. You've got the benefits of continuous pricing, concrete examples of new products such as cash plus miles and more ancillaries, your green fares. The leisure market's kind of there in terms of capabilities, work in progress on corporate. One thing I'll add that I was listening to my colleague Chanel's webinar yesterday on servicing, and what I took from that webinar is that servicing in the world of NDC and ultimately 100% offers and orders will be a lot better than it is in EDIFACT. So there's a lot of benefit here, a lot of value for the customer. And I've got one question for all of you, and just share public information, but this is for the benefit of the audience, is that How important is it to be contractually free today to be able to achieve some of these benefits? And where do you stand? Is this something you could share, for example, Tamur? Anything you can share on this?
Question goes to whom?
Oh, Tamur, I was going to say, Tamur, you start, and then we will just go around. As long as anything, as long as you're free to talk.
No, I think ownership, taking ownership. I mentioned this a couple of times now in all the statements here. Taking ownership is really important, and it's actually related to the question of independence, of managing here the cost and managing also the distribution without parity clauses, without constraints that are limiting these options that you can actually differentiate. And differentiation in the end is also creating competition. It creates also value via competition. And I think that's something we need to actively manage. So it's not just that we come into a new technical world with NEC, we also come into a new commercial world where those who provide value will be benefiting. And those who provide value will also be honored in terms of remuneration. And I think that's also another part of the storyline. It's not just the technical change, it's not just the transformation process for the industry, it's also a commercial transformation process that we make transparent who's actually creating value, and we honor that.
Right, and you've got your freedom of distribution, Tamur, I gather from what you're saying. Let me just ask Amit, for example, are you in a, I guess, what are your views on the importance of this freedom, contractually speaking, to move forward?
I think distribution freedom is very important. Like I said, if you want to control your distribution, you can have the freedom to control it. The FCA contracts that existed or exist for a number of players in the industry are outmoded. They're anachronous. If you're going to do modern retailing and you're going to make personalized offers, and like I said, not show the same 15 RBDs to everyone, but show them the 2 or 3 relevant bundled offers that is in their context, how can you even have a concept like full content agreement? Because each set of offers you make is going to be a different thing. And so that's a big part of it. I think our partners in travel distribution realize the same. They are, it's not a new concept. I think there are a few leaders, and of course Lufthansa has always led this from the front, but all the big players have followed, and I think the rest of the industry needs to follow. So you cannot be moving to modern airline retailing and not have this freedom of distribution.
Great, thanks. Thanks for that, Amit. I'm not going to go around again to you, Bryan. Bryan, I just want to ask you a different question. Is how do you see? I mentioned it earlier after Keith's intro. Is the integration of distribution and payment as we go forward in this journey to retailing? How valuable? Because I am sure 90% of the airlines on this call are not yet there in terms of this integration. Well, what's your views on that, Bryan? What would you say to airlines as the importance of combining these two functions?
It's definitely very, very important. Again, I want to talk about all the fanciful things I can already do on my website. I have WeChat Pay, I have Alipay, I have all the APMs, and this is something that today we don't have in the offline channel as well, right? So, and payment is such a sophisticated and such a fragmented space where you have different geographies demanding different payment types and have different payment needs. For example, in Singapore, we are very credit card heavy. We are not into APMs, but we have a huge network to China, a huge customer base. They want Alipay, they want WeChat Pay, they want CUP, and then in other parts of the world, they want PayPal. So we definitely, when we talk about retailing and modern retailing, allowing the customer to pay in their preferred payment method and payment mode is something that we cannot ignore if we want to continuously capture this audience, the customer. So it definitely has to be a part of our overall retailing strategy. Another example that I could give that I'm working very closely with IATA on is open banking, direct debit bank transfers, which is taken off in many parts of the world. And one of our strategies is to work with the IATA Pay solution so that we kind of use IATA as an aggregator to assess open banking in many, many markets. Yeah, so I will encourage my airlines here to look at IATA Pay as well. Thank you.
Fantastic. Now, thanks for those points, Bryan. And before I just asked Tamur for his views, just a little bit of background on that. Last year, IATA worked with Edgar Dunn and McKinsey. They did a study which assessed that the industry cost of payment is about $20 billion annual cost. Most of that's merchant fees, and of course it may make sense, but it's good to know it. McKinsey then did a study on that saying, well, if airlines can get it right in the way you described it, Bryan, customer centricity, some cost savings, but making more better options available for the customer, that could drive an incremental $14 billion on top of the $40 billion that McKinsey identified as retailing in general. So massive opportunities. And Tamur, I know that you're pretty switched onto this as well. Can you just give us the 1 minute view from Lufthansa Group? I think you're on mute.
Yes. So I think it's an equally important topic as the distribution part, the payment part, number one as a cost element, as you just mentioned, but also as a revenue facilitator. Think of payment more than just being a cost topic. It's actually creating value. If you can combine it with early funnel inspiration, which you can link additional functions to your payment wallet, and of course you find the right mix of payment forms that the customer really needs. And that's, I think Bryan was very right. There are so many different forms of payment now being used. We need to have the hub for it. Each airline has to create a technical facility that can facilitate that, and then you can hopefully roll out new forms of payment in the B2C world per geography, per customer segment, and it creates much more than just cost reduction. It creates additional value. The payment in itself, I think, is not just convenience, it's actually value creation. And then that's on the B2C side, but there's a second aspect also, that's the B2B side, which is very much dominated also currently by traditional forms of payment. I think that's still early stage. We need to see what has happened on the B2C side and what can we learn from the B2B side. And I think that's also a topic where we as a IATA community of airlines pushing it now. We're checking what could be our first test trial customers. We should look at what could be new forms of payment there. There's a lot to learn from the B2C side. It's early stage, and now many airlines, and it's the last sentence, many airlines are still grappling of where to place this topic. Is it a financial topic? Is it a topic of commercial? Where does it actually lie? And I think there's no single answer, but the key is that all the players from the finance and from the commercial side come together in your team. They work on this together, and then you develop a payment plan. And I think there's a lot of support the IATA can also give here, how to tackle this topic in your own organization to get forward. And I think there's a lot of educational still needed, but I think that is the way forward. We need to tackle this topic. Is as important as distribution. Payment is the key value driver also for modern airline retailing.
I think, thanks, Tim. Well, I think one of the highlights that McKinsey came up with, not only there's an opportunity of 14 billion, but if airlines are not careful and lose control of payment going forwards, there's a risk of disintermediation that could actually diminish the whole value creation part of it. So really a space to watch. And Bryan mentioned IATA Pay. Just to mention, in case people have questions, there was one question about the BSP we got. The BSP works just as is in a world of retailing with NDC, offers just exactly the same value for information. Someone also asked us about the McKinsey study and the questions whether it would be updated or not. The answer is we're working on it, potentially hopefully by the end of this year, just so you know. Now I just want to have a very quick round before we talk about something else. A quick round, I'm going to start with you, Amit, is can you just highlight anything you can share about concrete benefit realization to date? Some numbers or something that there were about, I think there were just over 90 airlines listed in the 400 registrations we got. And I'm sure that they'd be interested to know, just very quickly, 30 seconds, anything concrete you can share with them that you could realize in terms of benefits. I mean.
Yeah, see, the benefits, as we've said a few times already, come from both sides, right? So one, there is cost savings, right? So when you actually get in control of your distribution and you have the freedom, then you are able to drive some cost savings there. Direct channels or selling directly always both helps lower cost and enhance revenue. So the more you move to the direct channels, whether they're B2B or B2C, the ability to retail and sell ancillaries brings value to you, right? And so I would say, without quoting any confidential numbers, or gains on both the cost side and the revenue side are along the lines of what the IATA business case shows. on the NDC offer. And I mean, of course, we haven't started our order journey yet. So.
No, thanks for that, Amit. So anyone who wants to have a look, it's on our website, IATA.org/retailing. There's a business case, you can have a look there. Each airline will do their own business case, but thanks for that point, Amit. Tamur, on your side, anything concrete? Are you going to offset your distribution costs? Are you going to make more revenue for ancillaries? Something that people listening can just maybe relate to.
Yeah, all of it. I think we have really reduced our distribution cost now, and so much that actually our payment costs are now higher than our distribution costs for the first time. I think it's quite an achievement. Yeah, and we have also created revenue drivers. Let's take the continuous pricing. We can really measure now how much more we make in indirect channels on continuous pricing, and this is a nice figure that is perfectly in line with our business plans. We're rolling it out further now. Servicing is very important there as well. Let's not always think about direct revenue, but also think about indirect value, because you create loyalty of the customer with a better servicing proposal, with more functionalities which are more convenient for the customer, easier to use. There are a lot of indirect also benefits that you have that you can maybe not so easily measure, and it's probably a bit more difficult to convince your CFO on this one, but they have huge value as well. And I think we only look at the hard business cases, but we should not forget about all those soft elements that are so important in the modern airline retailing world.
You're absolutely right, Tamur. I mean, one airline was quoting this a couple of weeks ago that you should watch the Net Promoter Score that you've got on your website from your customers. That is one of the benefits you can get through the indirect channel as well, an increase in NPS. You talked about continuous pricing. All three of you have talked about continuous pricing, I think. Just for reference point, there are 4 or 5 studies from different sources that say it ranges from 1 to 5 or 6% revenue increase. Each channel will have their number, but this gives you all a ballpark number. Bryan, anything concrete you want to share in this area?
Well, I won't give specific numbers. I would just say that in terms of the revenue part, you will definitely see, because of the capabilities to sell paid in offline channels, we see much better rates there, so on and so forth. And in terms of cost savings, I would say it is very significant.
Okay, let's leave it there. That's thank you for that, Bryan. Now I want to move on a little bit, and I want us to couple of minutes, but the whole industry approach. Keith talked about his hat on the Distribution Advisory Council. All three of you are on the IATA Distribution Advisory Council. To you, Amit, how important is collaboration across the industry in this journey?
So I think if I talk about the journey, we probably started on the distribution and retailing overall almost more than a decade ago. The first few years have been very slow and painful, which also proves the case for why industry collaboration is needed. And industry collaboration is needed in developing standards. It's needed in sort of serve as a benchmarking and training ground for different airlines across the industry. So the ARM index by IATA, I think, is a very crucial tool there for airlines to understand capability with other players and other providers. Having a capability to lobby as an industry, to lobby our CEOs and CFO, as Tamur said, we need to convince the CFO and the CTOs about the business case underlying this. Having common templates of business case as we're working now in the consortium, I think will go a long way to move, the long tail of the industry towards the world of offers and orders. So extremely critical, all of that collaboration. And I think if I may mention our Distribution Advisory Council session 2 weeks ago in Geneva, where you were able to get the big 3 distribution providers to come into a room and to be very transparent in where they are in their NDC journey. I don't think without industry collaboration, we would have ever got that sort of nice, concise summary information that's crucial for all of us to make our future plans on this.
So thanks for that. Thanks for the call out for the ARM index as well, Amit. Just linking on that to Tamur, the consortium. The consortium is a group of 15 airlines getting together under the IATA umbrella to accelerate this journey to 100% offers and orders. So Tamur, where is Lufthansa Group on its journey to 100%? I think you're really committed to that. Where are you on this journey, and what is your involvement in the consortium?
Yeah, first of all, I think the consortium is really a great step forward in terms of agile working together. And it's also a learning in transformation also for IATA and for us as an airline team that we have undergone several phases of development now with NDC, with the new initiatives. And we have learned that we need to collaborate closer together. We cannot just define a standard and then say, okay, everybody does what he wants with it. We need to go further. And the consortium is now a very good way that a coalition of the willing is coming together, not as a club, but actually on behalf of the industry and in close collaboration with the industry stakeholders, be it the tech providers, GDSs, the TMCs were also in the room. So it was a first time that we came together in this constellation. So that was very good. But that we do this together as an industry and this consortium can be kind of the trailblazer. We need to go further. That means we also define methodologies, we find business cases, we define implementation transition paths, all these things. In the end, everybody's still responsible for himself, for herself to execute. But we do much more together than just defining a standard. And I think this is absolutely key. We will focus this more. And I think this has been a very good start. So I'd like to congratulate also IATA here for moving a lot forward and also do the internal change process, which is also part of the story and coming along with us on this journey. So I think it's a very, very positive step forward for the whole industry.
Tamur, when is Lufthansa Group? When are we going to first see you moving into 100% offers and orders? When's that on your radar? Is it 5 years, 10 years, 15 years?
Well, we will see, but we will align very closely, of course, with now the consortium endeavor. So we need to see what standards come out and what we want then set as guidelines also for our partnerships, because this is something you definitely need tech partners to go further on offers and orders. We are currently having intensive discussion with a number of partners. We are preparing an RFP also. We have a close team, a very closely collaborating team for about 15 people, interdisciplinary, similar like Keith was mentioning before, and they are very closely collaborating with IATA, with the tech providers. And I think we hope that by the end of this year, latest, we come with a suggestion how we want to tackle this now in the execution, because this is something every airline has to do in the end on herself. But when you ask me for the timeline, I wouldn't give you now a fixed timeline. I think the time we set together was by 2030 we want to be there. But now it depends on the speed of everybody, how quickly you can develop that. Some of these modules that we need to do step by step, we will definitely have to define together. So there is a certain correlation between the speed of what each airline can do and what we define as an industry. But I think there will be some of us that will be earlier there, some will be probably later there. Important is that we also, and I always say, the caravan is only as fast as the slowest camel in the caravan. So, and in this sense, we have to make sure that also those carriers that cannot move as quickly, at least are taken along, they're supported, they're guided, they're advised. And I think there's some of these carriers now in the call. I think it's really great to have a platform like IATA now and the consortium where we can connect with. And I can only advise everybody to use that opportunity and to engage with this community.
Thanks, Tamur. I think you're absolutely right. That just to emphasize that the consortium is working on behalf of the industry. They're moving fast, but all the information will be made available to the industry to help them accelerate as well. Just a quick one for Bryan, and then I'm going to wrap up. So just be ready with your less than 1 minute pitch to close this. But Bryan, just on offers and orders, just a very quick question. Is it on your roadmap? Have you done the business case? You don't need to tell me the numbers of the business case, of course, but where is Singapore on this? Are you ready to go? You're still exploring?
So we have done our own business case. So that there was the IATA study that talked about the 40 billion value for the entire industry. We have done a ground-up study with one of our consultants to look at how much of the 40 billion is for Singapore Airlines. We have done the study, and it is very significant. It's in the hundreds of millions in that kind of magnitude. Yeah. And what we have done during COVID was actually to perform an engineering study to assess whether there are already tech partners out there who can already start work with us. I'm very glad to hear that Lufthansa from Tamur that he has already started preparing an RFP. I'm definitely not on that stage, but we have done our own assessment, and then we feel that the industry will be ready pretty soon, and we are looking to work with both existing tech partners and maybe new entrants, right, on the possibility of modernizing our retailing and moving to 100% offers and orders. That's kind of where we are. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Bryan. So, gentlemen, can I just ask you very, very short, because I definitely need to finish on time. A very short one line of advice to all these airlines on this call who are saying, my God, should I get on this journey? Amit, 30 seconds.
Okay, I think if you haven't started the journey, you need to start it today. Looks intimidating till you begin, and then once you begin the journey, things just fall in place. I think that's if you look at the mountain, it looks impossible to climb. But if you start taking steps towards it, you find so many different shortcuts and ways to get to the top, and you can only accelerate from where you start. So do not be intimidated. The industry is doing it. Let's do it.
Great. Don't be shy. Get on with it. Bryan.
Yeah.
Bryan,
yeah. Okay.
30 seconds.
Yeah. Okay. I will encourage all airlines to start on this journey. Many airlines have come before you and have already solved a lot of the problems technically. So the capabilities are there, the standards are mature. There is no better to start than now, and you will realize benefit along the journey. You don't get the benefit only at the end of the journey. As you progress in this journey, you will unlock a lot of commercial benefit along the way. So get started and get on that journey together with the rest of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryan. Tamur, 30 seconds.
No, I think much said, and I think you need to identify each airline. What are in this value chain of the modern airline retailing? What are the value blocks you want to tackle first, which bring you value, which bring you cost reductions? Then really find the right team that can do it. So you need to find, I think, the internal organization, apart from convincing your board, also the right HR talent that you need for this. There are certain specific qualifications that are needed, and bringing them together that they speak to each other, not in silos. And then I think, let's not forget, the world around us is changing in light speed. And we didn't talk today about generative AI and large language models, which affect every airline of us in any aspect of our work. It will be a major game changer. And that's also a good argument, I think, internally that you can use. The world is changing around us. We need to change too. And let's use that. And last sentence, use the platforms that's offered here with IATA. I think we have come quite a long way together. There will be support for you. And I think that is something that is really making us stronger as an industry.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much to Jojo and Michaela for helping me organize this webinar. You'll get a feedback form. Send us any topics you want to talk about. There will be more of these modern airline retailing sessions with airlines, with travel agents and some tech providers. Watch this space. Hope you had a good session. Thank you very much, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening. Goodbye.